Welcome back to my series on things I learned from India. So, one thing I learned from India is about my perception on the world and how it was literally holding me back from just enjoying life because I was perceiving things in a way that were not happening. And I was just basing all my beliefs, all my decisions on that perception. But until I learned to just let go and not let these thoughts take over, these thoughts telling me about how I should think, what opinions I should have, placing judgments onto people and things, and I just let myself be, I realized that the way I was choosing to perceive things was unnecessary and it was holding me back from just being in the moment or like being with people. If I choose to perceive someone as, I don't know what judgments I put on people sometimes, maybe like they're weird or something, then I would live by that perception and only see them that way, but then miss out on like other amazing things about them. So, something that a monk in India told me was perceptions are limitless, but sometimes they need limits. I am an overthinker. I was severely really bad an overthinker until India, but that's why I'm doing this whole journey is to get over the overthinking. And with overthinking, it's where you're creating your own reality in your head. And it can get so bad to the point where you're just living by that. It's where you're telling yourself or narrating situations. So let's say you have an interference with someone. Maybe someone, I don't know, accidentally spills water on you. With overthinking, I could have perceived it as they intentionally spilled water on me. They're doing that because of this. And da 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 da. And then in India, I learned to cap my perceptions and not create a whole story off of things that aren't even happening. Because most of the time, the thing is not happening that I'm thinking is happening. And it's still a journey. Um, since being in the US, there's a lot of things I want to judge or criticize or perceive, but I'm always reminding myself to like pause, breathe, also to not react on a perception that I'm not fully clear on because that was my issue was like I would get into like incidents with friends, like let's say we're not getting along, and let's say like something little happens like, oh, my group of friends goes out and I'm not invited or I didn't hear about it. Immediately my head will narrate an entire story around why that is happening. Immediately my head will tell me things like, oh, they intentionally chose to not invite you and everyone is going out in spite of you or blah blah blah, whatever my head would tell me. But from learning to catch when my head's doing that, breathe and slow down, I'm able to see more clearly. And a lot of times situations like that can mean nothing, honestly. As much as our head likes to dramatize things and get caught up in, like, I call it movies, like drama movies, where, like, it's easy to just cling on stories, a lot of times it's not that big of a deal or it's not actually what's happening. Even if there was an incident where friends decide to go out with me, like, go out without me, there probably was like very little narrative behind it. Maybe just one friend decided to go out. Maybe one friend was upset with me and they didn't tell me, but that's probably all that happened. Um, as an overthinker, I would have this issue where I felt like the world was against me. I felt like everyone hated me or everyone was judging me. I felt like there's something wrong about me. And I would have a really hard time being in group scenarios or even just being friends with a lot of people. Because when I'm in those group scenarios, I'll engage with everyone, I'll have fun, I'll talk, and I'm not thinking when I'm talking, I'm just saying whatever is in my head, I'm not the type of person to like think through my words. Maybe I should. And then after having a fun time with everyone, it seems like a good vibe, I'll go back to my room and I'll think through everything that I did. Or I'll think this one same thing I always think about myself. I would think, oh my God, did I talk too much? or did I say something I shouldn't have said, or are they upset with me? Like, it was really that bad. I would just sit in my room, be alone and like miserable, thinking of all these narratives that aren't happening and getting anxiety over things that I don't need to get anxiety over. So from going to India, I got to really be faced with my false perceptions I had of the world. Um, I was getting really riled up over every little situation when I was there. I was very emotional in India because I call it an amplifier. When I'm in India going to the temples and I'm meditating, my emotions and my problems and the things I've been avoiding are all amplified to the max so I can see them and face them. So, like, all my anxiety, all my overthinking, all my stress, oh, it didn't go away from India. It freaking amplified. And I was like sitting in this temple with like a million thoughts. Like, this has happened. And I had a moment where I was in this temple and I just had to like pause and be like, wow, this is my brain. Like, yes, it's more amplified here in India, but like when I'm in the US and I'm not recognizing it, my brain just goes on autopilot, like wanting to narrate and control everything in my life. It's like a way to make me feel safe. It does this thing where it doesn't let me be in the moment, but instead it has to narrate every situation for me in a way. In a sense, it would narrate the situation, tell me what's happening, what this person thinks of you, what's really going on, what do they mean. And when I saw that that was a narrator that was just bringing me into suffering, bringing me out of the moment and actually not being with people, that's when I realized that this is where my social anxiety all extends from, is myself. It doesn't extend from others. I just couldn't be around others because my brain just would go on rapid fire thinking through every little situation. Another reason why my brain does this is because I've just never been the best with social cues or understanding like social situations. I literally had an era where I thought I was on the spectrum, but I'm not about to be like a self-diagnoser and get too like deep into that because then I will like literally throw a label on me like so easily and so fast, like, so I have to like chill. But I do have a hard time with like knowing like when I'm being too much in a conversation or understanding like how to read the room in like a group. I have a thing about me where I'm just naturally a very rambunctious, energetic, excited, talkative person. And so I'll go in a group and I'll be like that, but like if it's not the vibes of the group, then I get so afraid of being criticized, or I will get criticized, or people will cold shoulder me and I don't know how to turn it off or turn it on around different people. And that's what I'm learning right now is like, okay, how do I read the room, like be in the moment, not narrate every single thing in my head, like be here in this moment, feel out the room, feel out the person I'm talking to, and where to go with this conversation. Can I fill the conversation with my talking, or is this the type of conversation where I have to let them talk more? Like I am having to retrain my brain on to how to be a regular person in the world and like how to just interact with like normal people, like just be normal, you know? It's weird because ever since I got rid of my overthinking, trying to like understand how to perceive everything mindset, now I'm in the present moment and I'm not trying to like narrate it all in my head, but now I have to actually understand what the other is feeling like in this moment. And that's something I'm still getting used to, especially with people who like don't really talk much or just like very to themselves. Because when people were like that in the past, I would think like, oh, they're annoyed, I can't talk a lot around them, like I just never understood it. But now I'm understanding that when people are to themselves and don't talk as much, it doesn't mean that they don't want you to stop talking. In fact, sometimes they like when you talk more. And in the past, I would think when people were like that, it's because they're so annoyed with you, they want you to stop talking. But that was my narrator trying to control the situation. But now that I'm with them, I can see the person for who they are. And it's just generally a person who is more to their self. As a person who's always been very external, I have a big impact on social settings, and it can go the wrong way where everyone's annoyed with me, or it can go the right way where I can like really bring the life to the party. But I'm also learning when I'm in social situations to not make it all about me. Um, because I guess that was kind of something I was doing without even knowing I was doing it. A lot of times I'll talk about something with someone, and if it's a topic that I'm excited about, I will just keep on going. And I didn't realize that sometimes people will just be polite and they'll just reply. Um, well, I would recognize it when people like start to go more to themselves during it. And so when I see people do that, when I get excited about a topic, I would just immediately like shut up and be like, oh my God, I was doing it again where I'm over talking. But I'm learning where I can still be like that and I don't have to judge myself. It's just around different types of people. I guess my whole journey also has been understanding social cues since my head isn't protecting me anymore from narrating the whole situation. Like that just wasn't healthy for me. It just created too much anxiety like about me as a person. Like I just always hated myself when I was in social situations. I always felt like I was doing something wrong or saying something wrong, because there's also like a way that I talk where I don't have a filter. And in the past, growing up, my parents and my family, they used to get really upset about that, because when I was a kid, I would spill secrets or I would just say offensive things and not even realize it's offensive. That's another thing I do. I say things that are offensive and with no intention to offend people, and it offends them. Like something about me is I'm a very candid person. Like if I notice something, I'll just say it. But people get hurt about random things, or they take things the wrong way sometimes. Like if there's someone like having a problem, and then I'll like candidly just say like what their problem is, or like, oh, it seems like you're jealous about that person and that's why you're irritated with them, or something like that, that they get offended. I'm like, oh, I can't go there with some people. I can't get too deep with some people. So yeah, learning how to conversate with people, but not to perceive myself as a bad person if they don't reply the way I thought they would reply, if they can't conversate with me in the way I thought they could conversate with, just to understand them, like to seek to understand and to seek to see where you can take the conversations with people. I naturally love to talk deeper and like really get into things. And I would just do that like candidly in group conversations. But now I'm learning that some people can't handle that. Like some people get uncomfortable around deep conversations. I grew up with psychology. I grew up with therapy. I grew up talking about my problems. So it's so normal to like admit if I have a problem. Like, oh, I'm feeling anxious right now because I'm insecure about this and this and this. Or, you know, like, oh yeah, I'm depressed right now because I feel like I'm a loser. You know, like, yeah, not that, but you know, like stuff like that. I'm just very straightforward with like how I feel and what's going on. And I need to learn to like respect that some people just aren't there, and to not go there with people. That's another thing that I am learning to do, because everyone has their own perception on the world. And even if my perception is a little bit more broad or like a little bit more like worldly, if they haven't figured something out that I figured out, like I figured out that it's okay to admit when you're depressed. I figured out that I get anxious because of this. If they haven't figured that out and they're dealing with that and I comment on that, that can actually sting somewhere that I don't want to sting, because my goal is to never hurt people. So yeah, since dropping this narrator in my head that would make me overthink every situation, because I just never understood why people got offended. So I had to narrate it in my head and be like, oh, it's because there's something wrong with you. Since I dropped it, I'm able to see more clearly. And it's honestly like a new skill set of just being socially aware. I learned something, that emotional intelligence and social intelligence are two completely different things. You can be very emotionally intelligent, but not socially intelligent. And I was not a socially intelligent person, and I still am not a socially intelligent person. That's why I do only have a couple friends. Now that I'm aware that I am not a socially intelligent person, I do try to just keep my friend group to people who can handle me not being socially intelligent. They don't get offended by things. They know what I mean. Like I need specific types of friends that understand me, that understand what I mean by things when I say them. Because I think that's where I always had a hard time with groups and like getting along with strangers and stuff, is that I feel misunderstood a lot. Like a lot of times I'll say something and they'll take it just as how I'm saying it, but there's more to what I mean by it. But then I don't want to explain it because I don't want to talk too much in the conversation and take over, and I want to let them talk. See, like that's something else I deal with. Like I'll be in conversations and I'll be like analyzing myself. I'll be like, okay, I talked, now like they talk. I sound like I'm on the spectrum. Is this on the spectrum? Let me know in the comment section. Because I don't want to get too attached to labels. But yeah, social cues. Thanks for watching. Okay.